My universe mode has received a variety of criticisms over the years, and one of the most prominent among these is the notion that I ignore my fans. That I don't take ideas suggested to me from my audience, whether that be a new superstar debuting or a certain rivalry that somebody pitches to me, and I definitely think this can lead to some valid dissatisfaction with my product. You have a situation like Delzinski's WWE 2K17 universe mode, where he has the Big Show Open Challenge as a way to keep the audience engaged, give them a way to interact with the product, to influence what's going on. And even before that, with SNME, he had the Money in the Bank ladder match where the participants in that match were voted in by his audience. And when it comes to universe mode, I think it is nice to know that you can play some sort of a role in shaping the product that this person is making, because then not only are you enjoying the product for what it is, but you can enjoy it on a deeper level because you also helped to create that, and I can definitely see the appeal in that. But that's not something that I do. My universe mode is not interactive, and for the last couple of years that hasn't really been the goal, was to make it interactive, give the audience a way to sort of influence what was happening. I tend to follow my own path. I have a very clear goal in mind that I'm trying to get to, and I usually want to develop everything myself. And I'm not trying to defend against the idea that because my universe mode isn't interactive, that it is somehow lessened because of it. I think that's a valid criticism to make, but I look at my universe mode in a similar way to how the WWE looks at their product, in that I'm telling a story. WWE looks at theirs like it's a TV show or sometimes even a movie, and I kind of follow the same path where I look at it as a story, almost like I'm writing a book, is kind of how I approach booking my product. I guess that's the aptly named term. But my philosophy towards universe mode is that I want most of the ideas to come from me, because my universe mode serves to satisfy multiple different creative interests that I have. Whether that be the commentary serving as a chance for me to improve my voiceover, work on acting and whatnot, the visual side of it, editing, and then the booking aspect, which is helping me to improve my skills as a writer. One of the reasons why I typically don't take suggestions from viewers is that sometimes they tend to contradict future plans that I have, and it's not that I don't think that the idea could be good, it's just that it would kind of go against any future plans that I had. Another reason for this is that one person could suggest one thing, another person could suggest another thing, and sometimes they can come into conflict with one another. The thing with a universe mode is that it consists of a variety of moving parts. So if I have a rivalry going on between two superstars, and then there's a separate rivalry going on between two other superstars, once those feuds end, then those four superstars are going to go into different paths, and sometimes those feuds could mix together. Like, for example, we had Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. That was this big feud going on. And then on SmackDown, there was Roman Reigns versus John Cena going into WrestleMania. So WrestleMania happens, then there's the WWE Draft, Ambrose goes to SmackDown, and now Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns are doing a thing together. Whereas if somebody had suggested, oh, you should put Roman Reigns in a rivalry with, I don't know, Kevin Owens, for example, that would come into conflict with the plan that I had with Dean Ambrose. There are many different forms of storytelling where audience interaction can play a role. It'd be kind of like comparing writing a novel where you write everything yourself and then you kind of get influenced by, say, your editor or maybe a friend you show it to, as opposed to publishing like a weekly comic where after you post each installment, everyone gets a chance to see it and they're going to give their input on it, and that could potentially influence how you change your story. But I do feel as though if you're going to make a story in the first place, you kind of have to have an idea. You have to have your own vision as to where you're going to go with it. And sometimes that can be more flexible, which allows more room for audience interaction, or it could be a pretty linear, I guess, strict sort of set of guidelines where you have a very clear idea of where you're going, and there isn't much room for anyone else to make changes to that, because then if that happens, then it's going to kind of unravel everything else that you've planned out. And I don't mean to posit that certain suggestions I get from viewers might not be better than certain plans that I have. I know I've gotten ideas in the past that probably would have made more sense than what I actually ended up doing, but part of the struggle with making my own story is that if I make something that is flawed, I kind of want to see that flaw out till the end and then look back on it later and figure out how to improve from it. That's what Behind the Universe is about, is picking apart my flaws, ideas that I've screwed up in the past, and how I could have potentially done them better, or how I could potentially execute better on them in the future. One thing right now you could see is Dean Ambrose, how he won the WWE title back in WWE 13, and how I've kind of tried to rectify that over the course of every other game since then. When Dean Ambrose made his SmackDown debut after being drafted there, I made sure to address the fact that he was the WWE champion before, even though I think it was a terrible decision at the time. But I tried to approach it from kind of a semi-self-aware way, where he's saying, like, he's threw it away the first time. He completely squandered his first title reign, and that's why he wants it back. So it's not necessarily hiding the flaw that he was a champion before and it kind of ruins everything, but it's calling attention to it, and in a way almost trying to blend it together with like an in-universe reason for that happening. And sometimes that could work, sometimes maybe it doesn't, but ultimately it's my mistake to make, and I can try to correct it in my own way. Now, I have taken certain storyline suggestions in the past. For example, the idea of Stardust not being Cody Rhodes, that it was some other person. That was an idea I got from a fan. Somebody commented it in one of my, I don't remember exactly which video it was, but somebody left a comment on one of my Universe Mode videos saying that, hey, what if Stardust wasn't Cody Rhodes and you did a storyline there where Cody returns and it's this other guy? And originally, because I kind of had ideas for a plan like that, but then I skipped out on it. I decided not to do that because I thought it might be too convoluted. But then this viewer suggested it, and I gave it some more thought, and I thought, okay, well, I could probably make that work. I could make a storyline out of that. And that was an instance where the idea that was pitched to me, it blended well with my vision for the series, where I was going to go moving forward. But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes somebody could give me a storyline suggestion, and I already have plans for that guy like a year out. Like, I don't remember if I said this in a video or like a tweet, but I already have some plans for like future WrestleManias in the works. So if somebody wanted to suggest me a storyline idea for this specific superstar, that might not fit into the idea that I have. And with different people, it's different. Some is a very strict idea, like very, very defined bullet points that I'm gonna hit leading up to that point. Other superstars, it's just kind of a loose, open-ended goal. Like, I want to hit this spot by this time, and whatever happens in between is more flexible. So in that instance, a storyline could potentially, a suggested storyline could potentially work better in my favor. But ultimately, it all comes down to whether or not it fits my personal image, whether I think I can make it work. And sometimes there are just certain storylines that people make up that I think would work. I think they'd be a good idea, but I don't think I could do them well. For example, in the comments of one of my videos, somebody was talking about this idea for their own universe mode, and this idea of like the superstar who's like a caged animal. And I thought it was interesting. It's not an idea that I think I could pull off well. It's not an idea that I would have thought of. But I do think it was interesting in the way that he phrased it, and that it seemed like a concept that somebody else could make work well. I just didn't think, for me personally, that I would be able to pull off something like that. And it's not like it was a suggestion for me specifically. He was just kind of looking for my thoughts on the idea. But I thought it was cool. It's just certain ideas I think work better coming from different people. So if somebody wants me to do a specific thing with a guy like, say, Bobby Roode, and maybe my interpretation of the Bobby Roode character is different, and therefore my ideas on where I could take this character would be different as opposed to what somebody else does. You know, you have not superstars, but you have people come up with completely new gimmicks for superstars, like Heel Diggy, perfect example of this, the Border Watch, Luke Harper, Jack Swagger. That's not something that I would have ever thought of, and let alone try to execute on that. So if somebody had suggested, well, what if you make like a Border Watch where you put together Luke Harper and Jack Swagger, and they're like these super like racist Americans, and they are like the stereotypical I guess like most conservative, I don't know exactly how to phrase it, like the worst, like taking all the worst elements out of this stereotype and just really bringing it to the forefront and making it this villainous faction. See, that's not something that I think I would have been able to pull off, but yet, like, let alone think of it, I'm mixing words. It's not something that I would have been able to think of, let alone figure out how to book even just a couple of matches around, let alone have it be this long-running storyline for the course of several months, and yet Heel Diggy, he made the Border Watch, and they're the tag team champions. They're one of the biggest things, if not the biggest element of Friday Night Nexus at this point, and it's just crazy, because like he was able to work this because he has a different perspective from me. He has a different mentality that I just don't share. So he was able to take this idea, not only think of it, but flesh it out and make it this fully formed, this big grand storyline that he's got going on in Friday Night Nexus. But it's just not something that I could have thought of. So it's not that I'm against your ideas, that I will never ever take any inspiration from my audience, accept any ideas that are suggested to me, but I just kind of wanted to give an explanation as to why I often don't take suggestions from viewers, why it might seem like I'm ignoring you guys. And it's not that I'm ignoring you, it's just that the majority of the ideas I see just don't fit in with my vision. So I'm not trying to say don't suggest me any ideas, but if I don't accept your ideas, if I just kind of brush them aside, or if I respond saying that, yeah, I think this is a good idea, but it just doesn't seem like my kind of idea, that I just wanted to kind of give a bit of an explanation as to why I think the way that I do, and why my universe mode operates the way that it does. It's funny that I mentioned this now, though, because I do have an idea coming up, which is going to be heavily influenced by viewer interaction, but I'm not going to say anything more than that. I want to keep it under wraps just for a little bit longer. It might have a connection to something that I've said in the past, maybe it doesn't, but that's for you to find out. Now, this can be one for the universe mode rumor mill. He can come up with all the speculations as to what is this big hidden detail. But thank you for watching the video. I hope this sheds some light on this recurring phenomenon surrounding my universe mode, as if it were anything grandiose like that. But anyways, thank you for joining me. I think I said that already. Until next time, keep on YouTubing.